Story 1. The Man in the Roots. I used to hike the Appalachian Trail with my cousin every summer. We'd pick a long stretch and take a few days, just 2 tents, some food, and nature. Simple life. But one summer, about 5 years back, something happened that still gives me chills whenever I walk past trees with exposed roots. We were deep in the Smoky Mountains, far off the usual trails. The kind of place where GPS starts acting drunk and cell signals go to die. Around 7 p.m., we found this small clearing next to a downed tree with its roots reaching into the sky like skeletal fingers. It looked cool, like something out of a fantasy novel. So naturally, we set up camp right there. Bad call. That night, around 1 a.m., I woke up to this low, vibrating hum. Not mechanical, more like a throat trying not to clear itself. I sat up, unzipped the tent, and poked my head out. My cousin was still asleep in his tent, maybe 10 feet away. Then I saw it. A figure, half covered in dirt and moss, crouching under the exposed roots of the downed tree. I kid you not, it wasn't moving like a person. It was too still, like it had paused mid-crawl. Its face was pale, skin stretched tight over bone, and its eyes completely black, like polished obsidian. I froze. My brain wanted to scream, but my body wouldn't move. Then, slowly, like a puppet being controlled by shaking hands, the figure began backing deeper into the roots. Not crawling, sliding, like the earth itself was pulling it in. I backed into my tent, zipped it up, and sat there until sunrise. My cousin woke up fresh as anything. I asked if he saw or heard anything. He didn't. We packed up and left that morning. But here's the weirdest part. When we passed that tree again on our way back, the roots were completely underground, like it had never been upturned. No clearing. No sign we were even there. Sometimes I think I dreamed it, but I found dirt under my fingernails that morning, and I don't remember touching the ground. Story 2. No trespassing. There's a stretch of dense forest behind my grandmother's property in Oregon. When we were kids, we'd dare each other to go past the rusted barbed wire fence at the edge of her land. No trespassing, the sign said. Classic. One summer, when I was 14, I took my younger brother with me into that forbidden forest. It was quiet, way too quiet. No birds, no rustling. Just dead air and crunching leaves. We found what looked like an old hunting shack after about 20 minutes. Broken windows. Rotted wood. But there was a fresh set of boot prints in the mud leading inside. My brother wanted to turn back, but I was trying to prove I wasn't scared. So I walked up to the shack. As soon as I stepped inside, the smell hit me, like rotting meat and old pennies. Then the door slammed shut behind me. I turned around, but my brother was gone. I called his name, screamed it. Nothing. Inside, there were markings on the wall. Strange symbols burned into the wood. A bunch of animal bones hanging from strings. But the worst part, a row of photographs. Polaroids pinned to the wall. All kids, standing in that exact shack. Same floorboards. Same angle. Some looked terrified. Others looked blank. In the far right corner, there was one last photo. It was me, taken from behind, wearing the same clothes I had on that day. I ran, busted through the door like it owed me money, and sprinted back through the trees screaming my brother's name. I found him back at the fence, completely silent. He wouldn't tell me what happened. Wouldn't talk at all for the next 2 days. Then out of nowhere, he just said, "He told me you're next." I've never gone back, but the memory still lingers like a warning. Something was waiting in that forest, and I think it wanted me to come back alone. Story 3. The Whistle. I do solo camping trips. Always have. I like the peace. No phones, no emails, no people. Just nature. I know, classic setup for a horror story, right? Anyway, I went out to the Red Pine Forest in Colorado, a place I'd never been before. Real off-grid. First night, nothing unusual, just the usual sounds of wildlife and a cold breeze. But around 3 a.m., I heard whistling. Not a bird. Not wind. It was tuned, like an old lullaby. 3 short notes. Do-do-dea. Pause. Then again. Same exact pitch. At first I thought it was just my mind messing with me. But it kept going and getting closer. I stepped out of the tent with my flashlight. Shined it into the trees. Nothing. But the whistling was right in front of me now. Like the source was maybe 5 feet away, but completely invisible. Then it stopped. Silence. I turned to go back in the tent and saw a figure standing right at the tree line. Just the outline. Couldn't see a face. But what made me nearly collapse was that it was swaying slowly side to side, like it was still dancing to the tune. Then, from behind me, I heard the whistling again. The same tune, but I hadn't seen anyone move. That's when I knew there were two of them. I left the tent, left my gear, didn't even take water. I ran until the sun came up. The next day I hiked back with a park ranger. Found my campsite. My tent was unzipped, and inside, a piece of paper folded on my sleeping bag. It had one line: "We liked your rhythm. Haven't camped alone since." Sometimes at night, when I'm lying in bed, I still hear that tune. And when I do, I don't move a muscle. Story 4. The Laughing Trail. There's a hiking route in northern Maine that locals don't talk about. No map lists it, and no GPS picks it up. But if you ask the older folks, they'll tell you, don't go near the Laughing Trail. Of course, I didn't listen. It started when I found this old forum online where hikers share hidden spots. Someone had uploaded a hand-drawn trail, supposedly from the 90s, with a single warning scribbled in red. If you hear them laugh, don't laugh back. I figured it was just online creepypasta. So me and my friend Jordan, both adrenaline junkies, packed up and went hunting for it. We found the entrance by chance. A narrow path behind a fallen tree, marked only with a wooden post, carved with a smiling face. The air was different the second we stepped in. Too quiet, too still. Even the insects were gone. About an hour in, Jordan started acting weird, constantly looking behind us, mumbling things like, "That's not right, the trees are moving." Then came the laughing. At first it was distant, childlike giggles echoing through the forest. I figured it was wind, or maybe animals. But then the laughs got louder, and they moved, like someone was circling us, just out of sight, chuckling at their own joke. Jordan wanted to turn back, but I was stubborn. We pushed on. That's when we saw the first person. A young woman, barefoot, dirty, smiling with her mouth stretched way too wide, like it hurt. She stood completely still, her eyes locked on us. Then more appeared, behind trees, crouched on branches, all grinning, all laughing, but their mouths weren't moving. Jordan panicked and ran. I followed. The trail seemed endless. No matter how far we ran, the trees never changed. Same twisted trunks, same creepy grins carved into the bark. And the laughter. It never stopped. Then, I made the mistake. I slipped on a rock, and as I got up, I let out a short, nervous chuckle. That's when they all stopped. The laughing, the movement, the air itself felt like it froze. And then, as if on cue, they spoke in unison, one voice from every direction. "Welcome." I blacked out. Woke up 2 days later on the side of a Maine hiking path, dehydrated and alone. Jordan, still missing. Search and rescue teams found no signs of him or the trail I described. Now sometimes, I hear faint laughter when I close my eyes. And when I do, I don't dare smile. Story 5. The Things That Pretend. There's a forest in British Columbia where search parties go missing. The locals call it Hollow's Nest. The name comes from the hollow sounds people claim to hear at night, like wind echoing through a dead thing. I went out there with a documentary team, just 4 of us. We wanted to make a short film about urban legends, but none of us really believed in that stuff until the 3rd night. It started small. Our sound guy, Marco, said he heard something calling his name outside the tent at 2 a.m. He swore it was my voice, except I was asleep. We thought he was dreaming, but the next night, it happened again, to someone else. This time, it was Jen, the producer. She heard her mom's voice, but her mom's been dead for 6 years. We decided to pack it in and leave the next morning. But morning never came. The sun didn't rise. We waited for hours, but the sky stayed a dark gray blue. Our watches ticked forward, but the light never changed. It was like time was working, but the world wasn't. That night, we heard them. They started calling from the trees, in voices we knew. My sister, Marco's wife, Jen's kid. They were perfect imitations, except for one thing. They never stopped repeating the same phrase. "Come see." Over and over. Calm. Sweet. Wrong. We stayed in the tents, barely speaking, just trying not to listen. Around 3 a.m., or whatever the hell 3 a.m. means in a sunless forest, we heard footsteps. Slow. Crunching leaves. Something big. Then, from right outside our tent. "Help me." But it was Marco's voice this time. And Marco was still inside with us, clutching a knife, whispering, "Don't answer. Don't answer. Don't answer." It stopped. Next morning, the real one, we hiked out without speaking. Took hours. When we reached the road, the sun was shining. Birds chirping, like nothing ever happened. But our footage, all gone. Every file corrupted. Every battery drained. Sometimes I dream of those voices. Sometimes I wake up to the phrase, "Come see," in my own voice, coming from the hallway. Story 6. The Hanging Tree. My dad was a park ranger in Oregon. Tough guy. Didn't scare easy. But there was one story he refused to tell, until he was drunk one night and thought I was asleep. Back in the 80s, he was called out to investigate a report of animal remains found near a trail. Nothing unusual, except the caller said they were hanging. When he got there, he found a circle of raccoons, foxes, even a deer, all strung up by their necks with vines, hanging from a single massive tree. No cuts, no blood, just strangled, and carved into the bark, like a scar, was the phrase, "She waits for what's owed." He reported it, logged the incident, but the next day the file disappeared. His boss told him to drop it. Years later, that same tree started popping up in reports from hikers. Some said they saw a woman in white standing under it. Others swore they heard whispers calling them by name as they walked past. A few never came back at all. But here's the worst part. When my dad retired, he took me out there. I asked him why. He said, "I need to know if she's still there." I thought it was just closure. When we found the tree, it looked dead. Black bark, dry leaves, like it had been burned but never fell. No animals, no birds. Then I saw it. A pair of shoes at the base. Old hiking boots, moss-covered, and above them a noose, swinging gently in the breeze. But no body. That's when I turned to ask my dad if he saw it too. But he was gone. Just gone. I called his name, searched for hours, even called for help. They found me. But not him. Not ever. When I finally went through his things after the funeral, they declared him missing for months. I found his journal. Last page, one sentence. "I owed her. And that tree. It's not marked on any map. But I dream about it. And in my dream, it's always closer." Story 7. The Shelter. I was 17 when I ran away from home. Dumb decision, I know, but my stepdad was a drunk and my mom was too scared to stop him. I thought I'd stay with a friend, but when that fell through, I ended up in the one place I thought no one would look for me, Black Hollow Forest. There was this old, abandoned ranger shelter deep in the woods. Just a wooden cabin with no door and half a roof, but it was enough to stay dry. I brought some canned food, a flashlight, and a blanket. Figured I could ride out a few days until I found another plan. The first night was dead silent. No wind, no bugs. Just the kind of silence that feels like it's listening. I woke up to the sound of scratching. It was faint, coming from under the floorboards. I told myself it was an animal. Next night, it happened again. Louder. Closer. Then I heard breathing. On the third night, I decided to check under the shelter. I crawled under during the day. Nothing there but dirt and roots. But there were marks. Scratch marks. Deep ones, like something had been trying to dig out. That night, I heard knocking from below. Then a voice. "It's cold down here. Let me in." It sounded like a child. Soft. Innocent. I froze. It kept knocking. Knock, knock, knock. I whispered, "Who are you?" And it replied, "I used to live here too." I left everything behind and sprinted into the woods with nothing but a flashlight. I didn't stop until I hit a road and flagged down a truck. Years later, I met another hiker who said he'd stayed in a similar shelter while lost in those same woods. I asked if he heard anything. He just looked at me and said, "It's cold down there." Story 8. The Faces in the Fog. 3 years ago, I was part of a volunteer search and rescue team. We were called to a remote woodland area after 3 teens disappeared on a camping trip. All experienced hikers. Just vanished. It had been raining for days, so visibility was garbage. We moved in pairs, staying in radio contact. My partner, Lewis, and I were the ones who found the campsite. Tent torn open, gear untouched, campfire still cold. No blood, no footprints, just fog. Thick and heavy, even though the rain had stopped. It was like the forest itself was holding its breath. Then Lewis said, "Do you hear that?" It was faint, but yeah, I heard it. Whispers, coming from all directions. We called out. No answer. The fog got thicker. Our radios went dead. Then we saw the faces. Not people. Faces. Hanging in the fog like paintings. Eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams. Just floating. Lewis backed up. tripped and fell. I ran to help him up, but he just stared at me with this blank expression and said, "They want you to look." Then he went limp. I dragged him back toward the main trail. The whole time, those whispers kept following us. Back at base, the medic checked him, said Lewis was in shock. He couldn't speak for 2 days. When he finally did, he just said one thing: "Don't look at their mouths." He never returned to the woods again. And the teens, still missing. Story 9. The Loop. This one's from a survivalist forum I used to follow. A guy named Derek posted it before deleting his account. It read like a journal. He was hiking alone through a remote forest in Colorado. Experienced guy, ex-military. Knew his stuff, but he got lost. Said his compass spun in circles, and landmarks he marked kept moving. Then he noticed the strangest thing. Every time he walked in a straight line, he'd return to the same exact clearing. A perfect circle of trees. Each time it got darker, and each time there was something new in the clearing. First, it was a pile of bones. Then a mirror, just standing there, reflecting the forest but not him. The final time he entered the clearing, there was a man, wearing his clothes. Same face, same gear. But the man smiled and said, "You made it out." Finally. Then everything went black. Derek said he woke up at the edge of the forest 2 days later, with scratches on his arms and a broken watch, stuck at 11.59. His last line in the post was, "If I see myself again, I'll let him take my place." Then he vanished from the forum. Account gone. IP scrubbed. Story 10. The Forgotten Trailhead. You know those off-grid, no-name paths that don't exist on any map, but feel way too deliberate to be natural? I found one of those. Just west of Yellowstone, past an old ranger station, there's a metal sign that's been rusted to nothing. Behind it, a barely visible trail winds through trees that feel wrong. Too close together. Bark like cracked skin. Leaves that don't fall. My girlfriend and I found it during a weekend getaway. She wanted to turn back, but I convinced her to check it out. After all, what's the worst that could happen? An hour in, we realized we couldn't hear anything. No birds. No wind. No footsteps, even our own. It was like the forest was muting the world. Then we saw the cabin. Old. Rotten. Roof caved in. Door half open. We should have walked away. Inside, the floor was covered in carvings. Hundreds of names. Etched into the wood. Some were fresh. Some decades old. And at the center, burned into the floor like a brand. "If you leave, she stays." My girlfriend froze. "I've seen this before," she whispered. "In a dream." She ran. I followed. We barely found our way out. Every tree looked the same. Our phones wouldn't turn on. But just as the sun started to set, we broke through the trees and stumbled back to our car. We didn't speak the whole ride home. That night, she woke up screaming. Her arms were covered in scratches, and when I pulled back the blanket, there on her leg, carved deep into the skin, were 4 words. "She stays with me." We don't go near forests anymore. If these stories gave you chills, imagine what's coming next. Hit that like button if your lights are staying on tonight. Drop a comment if you've ever felt watched in the woods. I'd love to hear your story. And don't forget to subscribe. We're just getting started, and trust me, some things are better faced together.